Hey guys, I have an interesting topic that comes up pretty often. A lot of people will email me and they'll ask me, what is your favorite gun of choice around the house, home defense? And that's kind of a loaded question. That's kind of like asking somebody what their favorite gun is. The follow-up question they'll ask you is, under what application are you asking me to choose this favorite gun? Because it obviously matters. There's different types and shapes and styles of guns for a very important reason, because there's different applications to use them in. Same as home defense. I'm going to assume that most people are talking about a bedside type gun, like if something goes bump in the night, what's the first thing you grab? So that's what I'm going to try to talk to here today. But again, there's all kinds of other applications as to where you would have a particular gun, use it, and which kind you would use. Okay, first of all, I want to put this out there. I am not pushing any particular brand in this video. My biggest advice that might even be related to brands is simply don't buy junk. You are protecting your family, so the number one thing you want to do is make sure that you have something that is going to go bang when you pull that trigger. You don't want something inconsistent. You want to do your research and find that you have something that's reliable and that's not going to leave you in a bad situation. Another thing I want to point out is that these may or may not be the guns that I use around my house, and I say that for obvious reasons. I don't want Mr. Intruder out there who may seek to do me or my family harm, or wants to rob my house, attack me, or just come to my house and make himself at home. So I don't want him necessarily knowing what I've got. So I'm going to go over 3 guns that I do recommend. First up, I've got handguns, pistols, semi-automatic specifically. Yes, you could use revolvers if you wish. I feel like because of magazine capacity, I'm obviously going to suggest you use a semi-automatic handgun. This one in particular has a red dot sight on it, and I also have taller sights for co-witnessing through that red dot. In the event your battery goes out, you still have a way to effectively maintain your position on whatever you're shooting at without struggling or hoping that you're hitting it. You actually still have your sights that you can look at. So the co-witnessing is very, very important to me. Also have a weapons light on here. Now this is a Surefire weapons light. There are other ones that don't cost this much, a little bit more bulky, doesn't matter. But these weapon lights are very, very important. Now what I like to do is, I like to get the ones that have the 2 features on them. One that is simply going to be a feature that you can press and it temporarily puts the light on. That way, if for some reason you're just searching and you want to be able to disable it very, very quickly, you can simply lift your hand off of it. And the other way is there's actually a button on either side of the weapons light that can turn it on permanently, where your hand is not fixed or has to rest on the actual switch itself. I like having that opportunity because sometimes you may want your light on continuously and while your finger is on the trigger, of course, because if my finger is up here, it's not on the trigger, although I can use my support thumb to do that if I want to. So I just feel like having that opportunity is really, really easy. Now, the pros of using a handgun: maneuverability. You can get around corners, through doorways. You can get through your house very, very easily with a pistol, because you're not going to have to move that gun or manipulate it to get around doorways and go through hallways. You've got a definite straight path no matter what, because you're not taking up a lot of space with this thing. Safe storage is also a big time positive for this. The cons, of course, will be inaccuracy. Most people shoot less accurate with a handgun. However, I say that, but practice makes almost perfect. The more practice you put in, the more comfortable you will be with your handgun. Another con that is tied directly to practice would be malfunctions. Sometimes handguns, if you have somebody that aren't used to a semi-automatic firearm and all of the controls of it, whether it be if you have a safety or if you have a decocker or if you have a mag release, some people can be intimidated, and whenever they have that tunnel vision, when they have that adrenaline dump, it's hard for them to figure out what they need to do and how they need to utilize it. So in some cases, a semi-automatic gun, as simple as it may seem on normal terms, can be extremely difficult and intimidating for somebody to use, again, whenever they're having that adrenaline dump. So also malfunctions can be an issue. If you grab the gun wrong, as I've said in many of my videos, too low, or you limp wrist it somehow, you're going to risk having a stovepipe. Problem with that is, now you got to clear that before you can shoot again. So those are some things that, again, these are all tied to practice. Those are some things, though, that could be looked at as cons with a pistol. My next one, and one of my favorites, would be the pump action shotgun. That is a universal language. Most people speak very fluent shotgun. When they hear that noise, they usually know what's coming behind it. I don't care what language they speak and how little English they speak. That is a sound that resonates with most people, because usually the next sound is one that you're not really fond of, at least your body's not. With a shotgun, one can be slightly less accurate, and I think sometimes the fact that a shotgun has spread to it is a little bit exaggerated. Yes, it does spread a little bit, but at very close ranges inside your home, you're not going to get as much of a spread as one thinks. Again, the advantage that you might be thinking you have with a shotgun might not be quite there inside your home. Another advantage is that they're very, very simple. There's not a whole lot of controls. It's pretty much you pull the trigger and you pump the action. The cons for a shotgun would be unintended rounds. If you're storing buckshot in this thing, in many cases whenever you're shooting that, you're going to have 9 or 10 pieces of lead flying throughout your house. Again, it's flying throughout your house. In most cases, we have other people living in our homes. So that means that while we're intending a piece of that lead to hit the intruder, in some cases, depending on what kind of shock we're in or what kind of situation we're in with people in bedrooms on the other side of the house, it's very possible that pieces of that lead make it through sheetrock, drywall, whatever, or windows, or even doorways, and hit somebody that we don't intend to be hit on the other side of that. Another downside to a shotgun would be magazine capacity. In many cases, you're going to have 3, 5, 9 rounds in it. If you have the plug in there, you're only going to have 3 rounds in there. So that's one of the downsides, is you just don't have a ton of ammunition to run out there. Another thing that can be, and again, we go back to practice, but sometimes practice can't always solve this, but another negative can also be the fact that this thing is going to put some pain on your shoulder. If you're running a 12 gauge and you're running some double-aught buckshot in there, or some kind of buckshot of some sort, usually it's going to give you a nice little wallop on your shoulder. So some people can be intimidated by that, which makes them operate the gun differently, or it could just knock somebody down. If you've got a 90-something pound person and they're not used to shooting a shotgun, they go shoot a 12 gauge with double-aught buckshot, it's going to hit them pretty hard, and they may not have a very effective or efficient follow-up shot. A con on a shotgun is definitely maneuverability. This is a full-length shotgun. Even though it's got a shorter barrel, it's still a full length. What I mean by that, it's not like those little Mossberg Shockwaves or the TAC-14s by Remington, the shorter ones. I'm not a big fan of those around the house, simply because I feel like with the recoil that you're going to be experiencing and the energy that's being generated in these 12 gauge rounds, I feel like you need it on your shoulder. You want to be a little bit more accurate. You just don't want to be swinging one of those broomstick type guns out there in front of you and just hoping you hit something. To me, with a standard length shotgun, you're going to have a lot more accurate shots, and you're going to be able to maintain and control that recoil a whole lot better. So again, what you give up by having that full length shotgun is the inability to get in and out of doorways very fast. That's just something that you're not going to be able to do. You're going to have to maneuver that shotgun in and out, and probably not stay on target like you might want to in some cases, simply because you just have to take that thing down and go vertical with it sometimes. My next one, and probably one of my most favorite, is a pistol caliber carbine in a pistol AR configuration. This has got the SB Tactical brace on it that, thanks to Alex and those guys at SB Tactical, they make wonderful, wonderful products. This one here, what I like about it is it can be deployed really, really fast. You just press this button on top and it's going to extend, and it'll also fold up just as fast. I really, really like that. Again, we have 9mm here, so I'm not dealing with a rifle. I'll get more into that here in a minute. But again, I like the 9mm. I'm gonna stock this thing with a self-defense round, a hollow point. That's what I'm gonna put in here. Again, what I'm thinking about is I'm trying to keep my rounds from going into that wall and going into the next room. That's a big thing of mine. Another thing I want to point out that I didn't talk about on the shotgun, but I did have one, is weapons lights. This one has a weapons light over here. Now you can either use your weapons light where it's got the button on it and you press it when you got your hand on the grip, or you can do the one where you have the touch sensitive pad over here and you simply press it and your weapons light comes on. That's the one I like. And again, this one is very similar to my pistol in that I can press this touch pad right here and it will come on temporarily, or I can flip this switch over here and it stays on permanently. Again, this one also has a red dot on it. This particular model has one that takes surrounding ambient light to light up the reticle on the inside, and then it will kind of stay lit. It's a Trijicon version. I like that, again, because I'm not worried about batteries. I know that whenever I grab this thing, I'm going to be able to see my reticle in there without having to worry about, did my battery go out? It's also got flip-up sights, again, so I can co-witness, just like that pistol. With this PCC, I can either keep this thing collapsed or I can extend it, but it's still going to give me, due to the barrel length, very, very easy access in and out of doorways and through hallways in my home. That's what I like about this. I feel like I have kind of the best of all the worlds all in one, because I've got a longer rifle that I feel like is it's heavier also, and it's going to lend me to being a little bit more accurate, but also very, very, very fast follow-up shots, simply because I'm not going to have hardly any muzzle rise, if any whatsoever, by shooting this low-energy 9mm round. So that's a very nice thing. I really, really like the 9mm round in the carbine type firearm. To talk specifically about the pros on that, again, no over penetration because I'm using a pistol round, and it's going to have very low to any recoil. My follow-up shots are going to be spot on every time. In all honesty, the only con that I can give you for a pistol caliber carbine would really be ammunition that you use, and that's more user-based. In other words, sometimes these pistol caliber carbines, because you're transitioning from this magazine up into that chamber, if you get a cheaply made, and again, do not buy budget guns, but if you get a cheaply made firearm, sometimes these 9mm, when you get that squared off nose 9mm, that's a hollow point, sometimes it doesn't make that transition from your magazine into your chamber effectively, and you can wind up with some jams. I see a lot of people that get the perfect round nose ammunition in a 9mm, and they go to the range and bang, bang, bang all day long. They practice, practice, practice with that 9mm round. Then whenever they leave, they load the more expensive home defense rounds into their magazine. However, they've never fired a shot with that. They just make that assumption it's going to operate the same way. Looking at a practice round in 9mm, especially with that real long nose, that real long rounded nose, and then look at that short square nose of that 9mm home defense round, and you will see that there's a lot of different engineering, so to speak, that goes into these two rounds, and they don't function the same way. So you got to practice with your home defense rounds. It's going to cost you a little bit a few times, but run your self-defense rounds and run a full magazine of them. If this is a 20 or 30 round magazine, fill it up and run the whole thing. Make sure that your firearm is going to work perfectly and function properly with the exact ammo that you intend to store on it around your house. You may notice that on this list is not an AR-15 using a 5.56 round. I am not a fan of a 5.56 round in the home. I'm just not, guys. I know some people out there that's the only firearm you have, and look, a firearm in 5.56 is better than no firearm whatsoever. But in my opinion, the over penetration that you have on a 5.56 round with sheetrock in a home, or through windows, or through some of these hollow core doors, is very dangerous in my opinion. I don't recommend a 5.56 round in home defense, but again, if that's all you got, use it. You just have to be cognizant of what's behind your target. And again, that's one of the 4 rules of gun safety anyway, so I guess we should be practicing that all the time. Again, the 4 rules of gun safety don't go out the door just because we have a threat in the home, right? So even if I'm shooting this guy right here with a pistol caliber round in it, I still have to think of what's behind me, because these rounds too can make it through sheetrock. It's just that they're less likely to do it like that 5.56 round. Bottom line is, folks, if somebody is coming in your house and they seek to do you or any of your family members harm, the number one thing we have to do is assume that we're probably going to have a body lying on the floor by the time all the dust settles. We don't want it to be ours.